Hey guys, April here. Today I thought it'd be fun to share with you my 5 most influential guitarists. I also thought it'd be fun to go through them in chronological order, to take you on a journey through time, sort of my musical journey. So here we go. The year is 2003. I just finished taking classical piano lessons, much to my mother's dismay. And I'd also started secondary school, which is like age 11 turning 12 in the UK. Up until this point, I'd not really been listening to music very much. Only my dad's music in the car, which was mostly Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, Cream, that kind of thing. My sister, who's a couple years older than me, made me a mix CD with a bunch of music that she liked at the time, which included Green Day. She was a big Green Day fan. Blink-182, and I would say, happily, that the White Stripes are single-handedly responsible for igniting my interest in music, and the guitar, big time. Jack White's playing style and tone were so unique, and the music was so simple, but so brilliant. To say I became obsessed is an understatement. It was actually my mother who initially suggested I take guitar lessons. I knew I loved the White Stripes, but I'd never really thought of trying to play like Jack White, so thank you, Mum. So I started guitar lessons using my sister's beginner Ibanez guitar, and my parents noticed that I was progressing quite quickly, so they decided to get me my own guitar, which was very exciting. Obviously, being a giant fan of the White Stripes, I already knew that I wanted a red and white guitar because the sort of aesthetic of the White Stripes was red and white and sort of black a bit as well. I was like 12 years old. I didn't know anything about humbuckers, single coils, rosewood fretboards, like none of that crap mattered. All I really cared about was looking like Jack White and playing like Jack White. So I went with my father to the local guitar store. It was my 13th birthday. And I picked out this guitar right here. This is a Yamaha SGV. I think it's a reissue that they manufactured in the early noughties or late 90s, I think. But they go back to, I think, maybe the 60s. But I'm not sure. Do some research on that. But basically it was red and white. And look at that shape. Isn't that just very strange and cool? It's like a kind of weird pointy eggplant shape. Like no one at school, no one had a guitar like this. I was sort of standing out in that way. And the headstock is like a samurai sword, as you can see. It's very skinny. The fretboard is very skinny too. It looks super cool and it did me good all those years. But when I play it now, it does not play well. It's kind of horrible. Doesn't sound good. The output is very weak, and the intonation is horrible, and it's been adjusted, but it's just like a bad guitar to play. It looks cool though. I think I forget his name. He's the guitarist and singer in King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, something like that. The Stu something plays one of these live sometimes. Anyway, not a great guitar, but looks cool. I think what's really great about starting out trying to imitate Jack White is that his playing style is very basic. He overwhelmingly uses open chords, power chords, and pentatonic scales, which I was learning with my guitar teacher at the same time. So as I was learning it, I could apply that knowledge and learn the music that I love to listen to. And having that immediate connection, excuse me, is really just awesome, and it's really like motivating. Because if I had started out wanting to imitate Eric Johnson, Michael Romeo, I would have had no chance, because those guys are high-level virtuosos, I think just the simplicity of the White Stripes made the music accessible and playable. Here's a quick clip of myself in, I think, 2005, playing Blue Orchid with my sibling in my bedroom, my childhood bedroom. It's pretty funny. So at this point in my life, I've been pretty much exclusively listening to the White Stripes and playing the White Stripes music every day. My friends at school were never really that into the White Stripes, but there was another band who were massively popular among them. Exactly who introduced me to Rage Against the Machine, but I was immediately hooked. Those massive riffs and pumping drum beats and, space age guitar wizardry that doesn't sound like a guitar, but it is, was just highly appealing. So I had to learn how to make all those Tom Morello space noises. Fortunately, due to the fact I'd started out with the White Stripes, I already owned a Digitech Whammy, which, as you probably know, is a huge part of Jack White and Tom Morello's sound. And I'd also purchased a wah pedal from a friend at school for £20, which is a Dunlop wah, it's a bargain. But I needed delay, because a delay is also a big part of Tom Morello's sound. I tried using my dad's really terrible Zoom 5052 multi-effects pedal, which is just this like plastic abomination. There was only, I think, one delay preset, which was a short delay, and it was so rubbish, like you couldn't adjust the parameters or anything. I think it was my 14th birthday. I'd asked for a Boss DD3, which I had received, which was really awesome. I still own and use it today. It's a part of my clean tone setup. So if you've watched my Eric Johnson clean tone, I use it in that video, for that sound. Those Boss pedals will, they're indestructible. They last forever. So these three pedals, along with a horrible overdrive pedal, the AXL Tube Overdrive, allowed me to begin creating all the wild sounds that Tom Morello creates. I even went so far as to have a kill switch installed on my Yamaha right here. Tom has quite a unique pedal arrangement. He actually runs all pedals through the effects loop of his JCM 800, including the wah pedal and the whammy. It gives the wah and the whammy sort of more clarity, and it doesn't break up because it's not going into the front of the amp. It's almost like it gets like synthesizer sounds because it's like quite clean. Here are some examples. Okay, time for number 3. So I've been rocking out to the White Stripes and Rage Against the Machine tunes for a few years, and I remember I always practiced in the garage. But I've also been starting to listen to Joe Satriani and Steve Vai, who were my first introduction to like virtuosic guitar music. My dad learned about this and got me a G3 Live DVD featuring Satriani, Vai, and some guy I'd never heard of. Embarrassingly, on my first viewing, I actually skipped over Eric. So I only heard him when they played together at the end, you know, like Red House, My Guitar's Gonna Kill Your Mama, and Going Down, I think. But, you know, hearing him playing on his E335 was enough to convert me to a hardcore fan. That glorious, you know, smooth violin tone and cascading pentatonics just like blew my mind, because most of the shred stuff is like 3-note per string, modal kind of Dorian, Lydian, whatever, you know, like Steve Vai and Satriani, they do that kind of thing. But yeah, hearing that 2-note per string, you know, like super quick, just blew my mind. My first attempt to imitate Eric's tone was, well, laughable. But it was to be expected from an inexperienced player with very limited gear. At this time, I would only have had my Fender Frontman, which is obviously the solid state. You know about this one probably from my Eric Johnson video. It's just a solid state Fender amp. With the AXL Tube Overdrive, which is just the worst pedal ever. It's even worse than like a metal, what's it called? Metal Zone? I got it for £30 brand new. It was just, I liked the way it looked and I didn't even try it in the guitar shop. I just bought it and yeah, it's terrible. I think it's meant to be like a cheap tube, what's it called? Tube Screamer. It's like a Tube Screamer clone, but just not at all. Anyway, so I set the tone knob to 0, which obviously removed all the treble, and it sort of sounded okay. But when I played with a band, I was just completely buried under the drums and bass, as you would expect. It was a couple years later that I actually picked up the Ibanez Tube King, which I use for basically all my main tones now. It's like the greatest pedal I've ever played, honestly. I love it, and I hope it never packs up, because they're quite hard to find and they're quite expensive now. But yeah, I can use that to really get close to the Eric Johnson sound. Here's a solo I recorded when I was about 16. It was with my band, and we were called The Kick. We got this like studio time for free in a youth club. It was in the basement, and the audio guy, I don't think he did anything to the audio. I think he literally just recorded us and then bounced the audio, and then that was it. So the audio is very, very, very bad, but I'm so happy I still have this recording. Anyway, so you can really hear the influence, because I sort of stick to a dominant Mixolydian scale, and just I use some of the harmonics, and well, you'll hear it. This next one took me in a totally new direction. It was actually my guitar teacher at the time who introduced me. He burned me a CD, which I think I listened to once and decided, not for me. Like, I was just so heavily buried under Eric Johnson, and that was all I cared about. And obviously, tone-wise, pretty different. I mean, they both, in some ways, they're the same, but I think obviously Eric has very little treble. Matthias Eklund has more of a slightly more standard traditional tone with treble. But yeah, later on I returned to it and I realized, oh wow, this is something special. Anyone who knows me well knows that I am fanatical about Matthias Eklund. His style of playing and composing is extremely unique and really speaks to me. It can be very, very complex, but in a beautiful, compelling way. He actually introduced me to Carnatic music, which is the classical music of South India, which involves very mathematical rhythm structures that are very alien to a Westerner like me. At this point, I was already interested in odd time signatures from listening to Rush's progressive music, the late 70s, FL to Kings, Hemispheres, 2112. But Matthias took me to a whole new world. Regarding guitar techniques, he is known for wide interval tapping and his slap harmonics, where he doesn't pick the string, he basically slaps the finger on the the node, and it excites the string to produce the harmonic. So I incorporated both of these into my playing, but these days I don't do the slap harmonic thing for two reasons. First of all, I've basically blocked off the trem on my Strat because the tuning stability was garbage, and it was driving me crazy. The other reason is it felt a bit unoriginal. I felt like it was like a cheap imitation. And I was sort of using harmonics as a crutch in my playing. So I'd be like, oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, harmonic. Oh, look at me. Oh, wow. It's sort of, I didn't want to become like a one-trick pony kind of thing. Here's a video of me from, I think, 2015, demonstrating these harmonics quite well. So who could be number 5? Place your bets now. The answer is no one. Honestly, the 4 guitarists I just listed are the only ones who really influence my playing. I have tons and tons of admiration for other guitarists, but I don't really incorporate elements of their playing into mine. Perhaps guitarists, with the exception of Gabriel Murin of Consider the Source. I love his fretless playing. He's very inspired by like South Indian stuff and like Balkan music and like Middle Eastern stuff. So yeah, I try my best to play like him on my fretless, but it's really hard. Other guitarists I love to listen to are Michael Romeo, Rory Gallagher, Vinnie Moore, Jeff Beck, Wes Montgomery, Jimi Hendrix, Alex Lifeson, Guthrie Govan, obviously, and Gary Richrath of REO Speedwagon, who obviously is not really a sort of virtuoso, but his playing is just very cool, and it's very like balls to the wall rock and roll, which I've always been a rocker in my heart, and I always will be. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video, and maybe I'll see you guys in my next live stream.